Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh roasts Joy Reid, who says that whites didn't invent anything and in fact stole things from African American inventors. Costco will no longer sell abortion pills. Jurassic Park and other replica SUVs and vehicles from movies are being sold after a museum is shutting down. Cracker Barrel to change their logo and removes the barrel. And Ford hits recall number 104 in 2025 thus far. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. Ease me, see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase, with Picatinny rail adapters, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Jurassic Park and other movie icons. Well, they're going up for auction because the museum is shutting down. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Andrew Collins at thedrive.com. And he says, quote, "A movie car museum is closing down and selling prop vehicles and replicas. More than 60 iconic vehicles from TV and film history will be going up for sale, along with an immense haul of artifacts and memorabilia." Which, spoiler alert, the auction starts today. And here you can see, looks like a rendition of a Jurassic Park SUV from the original one, not the abominations they make now. The OG ones, back in the day, the very, very first ones, based on Michael Crichton's brilliant book, and obviously directed by Steven Spielberg. And yeah, it actually does look pretty. Again, that was not, that wasn't the one actually in the movie, but it looks pretty cool. Now they say, quote, "Rods and Bods, a movie car museum and prop rental outfit in Colorado, is closing up shop and auctioning off its colossal collection of stuff this week. This is the second big sell down from car museums we're hearing about this month. The museum is run by Zach Lofert, who started with a movie prop rental business in 2017 and evolved it to include a museum in respect to 2021 and the pandemic, which, again, in terms of a business model, might make sense because they stopped, filming things during the pandemic. They shut down a lot of movie studios, but I don't think that museum participation increased during that time. So, very interesting attempt to pivot. Now, that he plans to have a new location start over with a slightly different version of the movie car museum. But in the meantime, he's unloading a bunch of inventory to make money for the new space. Now, he says, quote, "It's like 99% no reserve, highest bidder wins. It can be in person or online. We're talking movie cars, trucks, signs, gas pumps, pedal cars, screen-used memorabilia, stuff like that. There's a deep catalog of memorabilia and interesting vehicles headed for the block auction. Officially begins 7 p.m., only say local time. You can check out the listings here. While there are some on-screen used items on the list, quite a few are replicas. You can pretty much pick them out with a careful scan of the images, but the statuses are disclosed in the auction listings. The Jurassic Park Ford Explorer wasn't seen in the movie, but the 1974 Ford Gran Turismo was used in the 2004 Starsky and Hutch remake, which I can see that. They also note that the Rubble Racer was used in the 1994 Flintstones film, which again has to be the most impractical type of vehicle because, even if I'm guessing it's made out of fiberglass or something lightweight, maybe there's a small little engine built in there so it can actually move, but that doesn't look like it's going to move. It also doesn't have a roof or, seat belts or doors, which is a little bit too simple even for me. And I'm so simple. I like manual transmissions, no automatic finagly. 3 pedals will do for me only. Now, reading the article, they say the vintage road signs and such are probably where you'll find the best deals, but the screen used and movie replica car collection is the most fun to look at, which looks really cool, but I'm guessing didn't drive a lot of attendance to the actual museum. To me, this is one of the coolest ones. Is a replica of the original Fast and Furious hero car, which is the Mitsubishi Eclipse, that was driven by Brian O'Connor, with the character Brian O'Connor portrayed by, iconically, Paul Walker. And again, that looks awesome. It looks like it has the right spoiler, the right body kit. It looks like it has all the correct decals and all the... it looks, on point. And me, I love green cars, so, I think it's even cooler. But unfortunately, it's really cool, but it's just a replica. That's, I think, why this won't fetch as many dollars as perhaps, obviously won't catch as much as real items. And I think that's one of the reasons why people didn't go to the movie theater. There is something that is just magical about the silver screen that really inspires people to go check out movie props. There's something about being used in the filming process that's just extra cool and demands more attention and, more dollars. I mean, the iconic Toyota Supra from Fast and Furious, I mean, that thing sold for about $500,000, which is kind of funny to consider it was naturally aspirated in an automatic transmission, which obviously is abhorrent. No one would ever want that. I'm pretty sure the new owner did immediately swap that crap out. But it's kind of funny, the hero car in terms of the Supra, the one that got the most wheel time, pun moderately intended, was the one that, was stock in terms of the drivetrain. Obviously had all the cool stuff, so, the body kit, the paint job, the giant pointing hand decal. But yeah, it's one of those things where, that was used by Paul Walker. That's iconic. This would be great for car show. And again, if I was a multimillionaire, I'd probably buy a toy like this, like a fun little replica. But yeah, in terms of, would you go to a museum for this? No, but it looks cool. It would win a lot of trophies at car shows, I suspect. Again, this one. This one is probably the peak of impracticality. I mean, it's the tribute to the Dumb and Dumber Mutz van, which, the whole van is covered with what looks like to be carpet. I mean, heaven forbid it rains that day. You also have the replica of Jesse's Jetta from the first Fast and Furious movie, signed by Chad Lindenberg, who played Jesse. So that's kind of cool. They actually have, one of the actors actually was in that vehicle, at least for a New York Minute, he signed the dang thing. It's not, screen use because there's front brake calibers on that Jetta, which, fun fact of the movie, they did not have front brake calibers on the vehicle, which is a fun Easter egg. You also have the vintage Batman, but it's a tribute car. Now, here's one that actually was used in film. It was Dom Toretto's Dodge, used in Fast and Furious 4 in the beginning of Fast 5. But again, also, disappointing. That big engine big engine popping out the front hood, it's just fiberglass. It's mostly fiberglass replicas. Granted, most of the Hollywood studios will put something fun like, good old small block Chevy V8 in the thing, so it actually has power. But yeah, a lot of the cool things that you think are part of the car are really just, just a facade. It's movie magic. But again, this one was actually in the film, so this might actually get a pretty penny. Looks pretty cool too. Yeah, the replica of the truck from The Fall Guy, and the dashboard was even signed by Colt Seavers, Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, and the director David Leitch. So that kind of adds a little provenance. Some people love signatures, love the autographs. This one's pretty cool, but it's, again, a replica of the Heist Civic from the first Fast and Furious film. And they do note that it is a rare period-correct body kit, which, again, especially nowadays, I mean, those types of accessories are getting harder and harder and harder to find. They're almost to the point of unobtainium, almost like Mark IV Supra accessories. There's new in box or new old stock items out there somewhere. But when they're discovered, they're so rare, they demand outrageous prices on the internet because, again, the supply is so infinitely small. So, again, it's really cool. It has the right body kit. It looks awesome. Looks like it's in great shape. It's a Honda, so, if it has the original drivetrain, you bet it still runs like a champ to this day. But, again, I wouldn't go to a museum to see a replica. Even though even though it has a lot of the same parts, it's just not the same. You also have a replica kit from Knight Rider, which, again, kind of cool. Looks pretty screen accurate. They have Chief Hopper's police car. Well, it's an SUV from Stranger Things. All right, so there's something. That's a very popular show. I've heard of it. They have the screen-used Ghostbusters car, but it's from the 2016 movie that flopped epically. And yeah, that thing might get $18. Maybe someone will bid $100 on it just so they can get scrap metal value out of it. They have a A-Team van replica, but was used to promote the 2010 movie, so there's a little something. And again, they have hundreds of signs. And again, Lord knows I love my collectible signs. As you can see on the show, if you're watching on YouTube or the Rumble, you can see the screen or the background behind me. It's a bunch of vintage signs of defunct businesses. Definitely slow down my collecting, though. I'd love to get more toys or, pieces of business history, as I like to call them, behind me. But yeah, those signs can get pretty penny, especially the vintage porcelain oil industry signs. Those sell for a stupid amount of money. So that actually might be where most of the money comes from in the auction. They also know that they have things like the death-proof jacket worn by Kurt Russell on set, but not on screen. Again, there's some cool knickknacks there. But yeah, it's one of those things where I suspect people didn't want to go to a museum to see replicas. But again, some of these were authentic, and it looks really cool. I would love that green Mitsubishi Eclipse. Back when Mitsubishi made great cars. back when the Eclipse was a sports car. Now it's a crossover SUV that only 18 people wanted, and I suspect, yeah, Lord knows, I don't know who's going to go out of business first, Mitsubishi or Nissan, but it's sad to see the museum go out of business, or, he's shutting it down. He is basically selling, well, a lot of people are suspecting because the land is worth so much money. There is moving in apartments, hotels, and housing, which in the United States, very high demand for those things. And he says he's going to open up a new one. We'll see, and I wish him all the best of luck. But let me know if you were bidding at, if you're bidding at this auction, of all these vehicles we looked through today, which one would you pick and why? Let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Cracker Barrel changing their logo and getting roasted online, as well they took away a lot of the iconic logo. Now this brought to us thanks to Benny Johnson on X, and he says, quote, Cracker Barrel completely changed their iconic logo for the first time in 47 years, and it's absolutely horrible. When will they learn? And here you can see the OG Cracker Barrel, which again has a gentleman on an old-timey chair and a barrel, which makes sense. Not to be pejorative, but the man is in fact, well, he's yellow because their logo is yellow and brown, but many people suspect he is in fact a cracker, and he also did have a barrel. And it's, again, they even changed the logo. They removed the font below it that said Old Country Store. And the new one, it looks like a bastardized picture of maybe like, not the IHOP logo, but like a cliche restaurant logo. A hexagon. I was not a great math student, but yeah, you only have, the font is different. And it literally is just a hexagon background that's solid yellow. Then you have the Cracker Barrel name on it. But yeah, they changed the font on the K that used to actually, the tip of the K used to go into the outer ring of the logo. And yeah, most people are not liking this. And it went pretty viral. Got about 650,000 views and 5.5 thousand likes. And Owen Schroever first responded saying, quote, not a cracker or barrel in sight, getting 760 likes. And again, when you look at the company, which is kind of hilarious that the company is actually worth more than some tech companies in terms of a price per unit share of stock. Again, not financial advice, but they're trading for about $59 per share. And yeah, some tech stocks are around $20 per share, which I still think is kind of funny that, again, maybe tech is overvaluated, but Cracker Barrel is worth more than some tech companies. Again, per share. We're not talking about the total company valuation, but still made me smile and laugh. And I'm not surprised. Again, Cracker Barrel, they have a new CEO. She came in about 2 or 3 years ago. They've changed very much in terms of who they're going after in terms of core demographics. They even had the chairs, the front chairs, old-timey chairs, they actually changed them to have, trans flags painted on them. And they're trying to go after a new market. They're in a very sticky business situation where a lot of the people that love Cracker Barrel, a lot of them are passing away, unfortunately. Very similar to Harley Davidson. And it's one of those things where not a lot of people are buying Harleys. The most diehard Harley fans, well, they're all, unfortunately, passing away due to Father Time. And a lot of the motorcycle, buyers, my age or younger, they like what they call to be crotch rockets. Like, well, you obviously have some of the most iconic companies in there, like Honda. You also have Yamaha. I mean, there's some, Suzuki, I guess, to a small degree. You see those every once in a while. I think that I covered the main manufacturers. I mean, the Kawasaki, of course, you got the Ninja, obviously iconic and green, so I love it. But it's an issue where a lot of Cracker Barrel customers were dying away. And they hired a new CEO, and obviously a lot of people say she's a cliche liberal leftist white woman, which coincidence, she absolutely is. And I don't know if this is really going to be able to pivot. Again, Harley Davidson tried. They made EV motorcycles. They got a new CEO. They went very hard on the DEI, which again is a marketing technique in and of itself to try to attract prospective buyers. But I don't think those markets are going to go after this. Look at where Cracker Barrels are located. I mean, they're very popular truckers, usually off the main highway. They're usually not. You're not going to see this in downtown Dallas. And that niche worked great for years. Unfortunately, less and less truckers in the United States. Again, there's a lot of industry and demographic changes, and they're trying to stick with the times. They're trying to find new customers desperately. I mean, their 5-year stock trend is not doing great. And yeah, I think they're trying to rebrand. I think they're looking for customers that almost don't exist. And again, they are also alienating their core customers, which again, many of them are still around. Although, let me know, when was the last time you actually went to a Cracker Barrel? I think I did it as a kid once as a novelty, but I also didn't eat out much just because, frugal times as growing up and stuff. But for the comments, the first one comes with things to Matt Van Swol saying, quote, I hate this so much. I have so many questions or so many awesome memories about this place as a child. My grandparents would come and play with a Cracker Barrel peg game. Really amazing times, getting 508 likes, which, again, that's also the issue. My grandparents, like a lot of grandparents, love Cracker Barrel. But again, unfortunately, they're passing away. Alex Grace, which, for SOB, imagine being conservative, stuck in Canada with America right there, so close. You're so close to freedom, yet stuck in the totalitarian hell. Now, Alex Grace says what? Quote, as conservatives, we love to stick to tradition, and Aunt Jemima rebrand thing backfired so hard on black people, they should really just listen to us, getting 8 likes. From Tracker, which is one of the contrarian accounts I follow, because again, life gets a little bit boring when you're in an echo chamber. And he says, quote, why does MAGA have zero original content? Now, he just highlighted 2 conservative podcasters that, posted the same picture of the Cracker Barrel logo, which I'm pretty sure people on the left and the right and libertarian, they all do that. Again, it's a hot topic. It's very, very viral this week. So again, a lot of people are posting about it. That did get 23 likes, though. You have Rich Moody saying, quote, Cracker Barrel made their logo more woke when the rest of the country is moving away from the woke mind virus. Will Dylan Mulvaney be doing commercials next? Getting 24 likes, which I actually was surprised. Like the logo, again, there's 2 colors. There's not a rainbow or anything there. They have policies and they have actions of the companies that align with those types of ideals, which again, I don't think really jives with the average Cracker Barrel consumer or the previous ones. You have Remember the Pets saying, quote, the new CEO, and getting 82 likes. And she, I don't know why liberal white women go after these glasses. They're thicker than my thighs and very unattractive, like my thighs. But it's an instance where there are 10,000 million glasses frames out there. Granted, manufactured by like 2 companies, but still, there are so many choices out there. And she chose the worst style glasses. It's almost like Umbridge from Harry Potter. Yeah, and then again, that got 82 likes. Let's see. Don Wick also says Cracker Barrel has a new leftist CEO. That's why go woke, go broke. Getting 429 likes, which again, she's also been in charge for a couple of years and trying to turn the company around. Spoiler, not so much. Jeremy Prime simply says F you, Cracker Barrel, getting 547 likes. Mosiner Martinez says their target audience is the actors and actresses from the Jaguar commercial, getting 204 likes. Robert Davis says, quote, Phase 1, remove the Cracker and Barrel. Phase 2, remove the front porch rockers. Phase 3, remove their loyal customer base, getting 68 likes. Scrolling down more and more. Evan says, this is why. People also ask, who owns the majority of Cracker Barrel? Institutional ownership and shareholders. Largest shareholders include BlackRock, GMT Capital Corp, Vanguard Corp, IJR iShares. That's a new one for me. But yeah, State Street, that's another big one that people remember for having DEI policies. They got 78 likes, and a couple other investment firms I've not heard of before. Yeah, a lot of people consistently bringing up BlackGuard, Vanguard, State Street, and then this is a new one, Alliance Bernstein, LP. And he says, or again, this is credited to Mid, and he says, quote, they suck nostalgia and uniqueness out of everything to appeal to the most people, getting 178 likes, which, again, I would argue they're not appealing to the most people with this logo. Again, I think I'm not really a big fan of logo changes, historically speaking. I understand why you do it. It makes sense to do a refresh. But I think they deviated too much. They literally removed the barrel. Like, even if they kept that same backdrop and if they just added that barrel, like they could have changed the background, which historically was kind of more circular and blended into the logo. I mean, just having that old logo with a different background that's, again, more symmetrical, that could have made it a little bit more modern and maybe gotten the best of both worlds in terms of a marketing logo, I would think. You also have Richard Alberni saying, get rid of the white old timer in the rocking chair, just chilling. You can't make this shit up. Never going again. Getting 22 likes. That was a sad dog from Just the Guy saying Cracker Barrel logo makes me so sad. Getting 47 likes. Oh, poor Bob. Getting 56 likes. Going up like stock. 57. Let's see here. And there's a more contrarian statements. Al E. Gator says, I'm surprised they didn't just change the name to Privilege Barrel. And he did a Photoshop of the new logo. It says Privilege Barrel, getting 41 likes. Bombs over Hey says they want to erase the America that you knew, getting 18 likes. A lot more people bringing up the shareholders, or largest institutional shareholders. New Mexico Ranger says the equity firms will never learn. They need to be forced to stop, getting 50 likes. We also have Catherine Trotter, and she has a repost by Alex Bruniskowitz, It says the CEO of Cracker Barrel is as woke as they come. She's destroying what a great American brand. And this is referencing to a article. It says Cracker Barrel LGBTQ plus alliance. It says supporting home office and field employees to bring their whole selves to work while strengthening Cracker Barrel's relationship with the LGBTQ plus community. They got 12,000 likes originally, and that was reposted by Catherine Trotter, getting 50 likes there. Again, that might be a variable as well in terms of why people are maybe turned off by it. But and a lot of people make fun of the food a little bit. Some people are saying their stock is going down because when this news broke, the stock went down by about 1.88%. I'm always pretty pessimistic when it comes to single variable analysis, when it comes to stock analysis. Again, there are some very big things that do cause stocks to change. Well, of course. But again, if you zoom out of the stock, it's been going down for years. I think that maybe this accelerated it. Maybe. I don't think that's the only reason. It's also, sales going down time and time again. But let me know what can be done to actually realistically save Cracker Barrel. Again, a lot of their previous customers. Oh, here's a great, really quick. Here you see all the logos from 1969 to 1977. They didn't have a guy or a barrel. It was just Cracker Barrel Old Country Store. Then you have the 1977 to 2006, and so Cracker Barrel. All these say Cracker Barrel, and then under the logo is Old Country Store. And they slightly changed the shape of the backdrop a little bit. Looks like maybe the guy lost weight throughout the years a little bit. That got 5. I'll make it 6 likes. I kind of like the logo compilation. You can see the history of it. And yeah, this is, in terms of logo deviation, one of the biggest ones in restaurant history, I would argue. But again, CEO is saying, these store managers want rebranding, they want new stuff. I really do wonder, again, realistically, what could be done to help Cracker Barrel, or what could save the company? Harley Davidson, again, I see a lot of parallels. They've been trying to find new customers. They've been making more sport bikes in addition to the, kind of cliche, big, loud Harleys, which, to me, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the big, heavy bikes. I like the more sporty, fast ones. But again, Harley's trying to make new stuff. They tried to make EV bikes for the youth that they ended up spinning off. They're apparently trying again. And yeah, I just don't know what realistically could be done to save them. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Report podcast, you have Matt Walsh pushing back on Joy Reid, saying that whites didn't invent anything. And I should put a visual disclaimer on the screen here. You're going to see Joy Reid, who some people might argue is more viscerally disgusting than I, which is saying something. And yeah, Matt Walsh says, quote, almost all of the most important inventions over the past 2,000 years came from white people, unquote. And again, here's Joy Reid, who's going to, sound like Joy Reid without too much further ado.
They can't fix the history they did. Their ancestors made this country into a slave hell. But they can clean it up now because they got the Smithsonian. They can get rid of all the slavery stuff. They got PragerU. They can lie about the history to the children. They can't originally invent anything more than they ever were able to invent good music. We black folk gave y'all country music, hip hop, R&B, jazz, rock and roll. They couldn't even invent that, but they have to call a white.
Who invented the electric? Obviously this is meant to be actually important, but right off the top of my head, wait a minute. Didn't invent rock and roll. Who invented the electric guitar? Oh yeah, Les Paul. Oh yeah, it's not just the name of guitar, it's actually the inventor.
White man, the king. Because they couldn't make rock and roll. So they have to stamp the king on a man whose main song was stolen from an overweight black woman.
Didn't make rock and roll. I think of history and music. Bach, Beethoven, fast forwarding a lot. Got the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Sum 41, Blink-182, Eminem. Again, there are a lot. Every culture makes music. To say that one didn't make any music is ridiculous. And saying that, they stole everything. They have no original ideas. And again, Matt Walsh responded saying, almost all the most important inventions over the past 200 years came from white people. Which, yeah, there are quite, if you look at that, dictionary, you look at all the things that are invented, there are a lot of them. You could debate, are Canadians really white, or are they some other different weird breed made of maple syrup mostly? I'm only partially kidding, but Canadians, the first, I think most people would argue the first mass-produced successful smartphone in history came from BlackBerry, famously headquartered in Canada, which I purposely mispronounced as a slight to that rudimentary totalitarian country. That's almost important inventions in history. It's the reason why we all have smartphones in our pockets to this day, or for the most part. There might be a couple of people who are holding out. I know one or two. But yeah, that would be a big one. I'm a big firearms aficionado. I mean, gunpowder, one of the most important inventions in history. That was Chinese or China. That was pretty important. In terms of, well, going more back to firearms, one of the most brilliant men in history, Samuel Colt, the first person to successfully invent the revolver that would successfully repeat. And again, fun fact, kind of weird, Gaston Glock, born on the same day but not the same year as Mr. Samuel Colt, invented the first successful mass-produced Almer pistol, which had the safety built into the trigger, used from Austria, which, when you think of Austria, I mean, they're really only known for Glock, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Red Bull, and famous painters from earlier in the year you shouldn't mention on the YouTube. But yeah, a lot of firearm contributions. Automobiles, Daimler-Benz, which later actually renamed the company to Mercedes, which is actually, was a product that they made. It was the name of a car, named after the daughter of one of the investors. But yeah, in terms of the first successful car, Daimler-Benz, or Daimler. Later, the first mass-produced car in the world, Henry Ford, another one. Again, but inventions do come from every race. I think Matt, he's obviously, overestimating, being a little bombastic. Though you could argue, the OS on your computers from Microsoft, Bill Gates. Well, or maybe you're an Apple guy, Steve Jobs. But Nokia, the Swedes, one of the first successful mobile phones in history. The Nokia brick is iconic dirt. That is darn near bulletproof. Those things withstood the test of time until smartphones killed them and they didn't adapt, unfortunately. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm a little biased. As a kid, my favorite inventions of all time had to be a super soaker, famously invented by a NASA engineer who was African American. Again, every race has contributed multiple inventions throughout history. But of course, Joy Reid is so filled with hate and disdain. She just thinks, oh yeah, white people can't invent anything. We just went over firearms, computers, automobiles. I forget the gentleman's name, but the Ethernet cable, you could argue the internet, Al Gore, kidding. But yeah, there are a lot of contributions. And for her to say, oh yeah, they just steal anything. Now, Trump, in terms of the Smithsonian, he's getting rid of the BLM stuff. He's getting rid of some of the divisive DEI items and a lot of the, I would argue, hateful things in the museum. Again, every race has contributed to society, but Joy Reid is so blinded by hate. He just says, oh yeah, of course, no. Now, I do think that, again, she made a lot of money. And again, a lot of news networks make a lot of money from race baiting. I think it's over. I think most of the average Americans, most people in the world just go, I really don't give a damn what you look like, where you come from, or what's between your legs. I only care merit. That's why I always tell people I think capitalism defeated racism decades ago. Because again, if you want to build the best business, you're going to hire the best person. That means you accept every single resume. Doesn't matter what they look like. That means in terms of a business, you're selling stuff. Well, you want all the customers. You don't want to just sell to one segment. You want to make the most amount of money. That's going to be sold to every segment. So I don't know if I'm original in that analysis or that statement, but I've been saying it for probably 10 years. I do believe that capitalism defeated racism decades ago. Now, again, this went very viral. Got 1.9 million views and 32,000 likes. I'm surprised. I guess I'll throw it out there, kind of cliche, but George Washington Carver, in terms of genius, that guy thought of 300 plus inventions for peanuts. Although hilariously, he did invent peanut butter, which is, you invented 300 uses for peanut butter, and famous African-American inventor, but he didn't invent the actual, it blows my mind. But again, there are medical innovations as well, all around. Now, one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Amelia Henderson, who says, quote, they're ignorant as F. And it's Joy Reid saying white people couldn't invent rock and roll, they stole it. And he says white people literally invented the electric guitar, getting 716 likes, which, yeah, no, it's not just a product from Fender. It's one of those things where, Les Paul is a genius. The first electric guitar. Again, some of the best musicians. Also, did she forget the blues? Again, some of the best music comes from the African-American community as well. You look at historically. But again, every culture has music. I would argue some better than others. I almost want to joke like Cuban music. We're known for no. I was gonna say my mother's country they came from Cuba. I'm like, what kind of music do they have? It's like it's okay. It grows on some folks, I suppose. But yeah, let's just say. I listen to darn near everything. I forget. Is it called death metal? Someone just threw in my YouTube comments. I need to actually listen to it this week. But he did suggest a death metal band because historically I only heard one or two and didn't like it. I'll probably give it another whirl this week. Or this weekend. You also have Dr. Shari saying, quote, without a doubt, white people invented blonde hair. It's Joy Reid with her blonde wig on, getting 388 likes. Dr. Shari also says, thank white people for, and it's a big list. And I forgot if I fact checked this last time. Well, let's see. How can I zoom in there? Now, she says, let's see. Thank a white person for the computer you're using on, which, yeah, I was about to say, maybe Asus, well, manufacturer computer. I guess some of them are from Japan and Korea, Samsung. She says, motion picture television. Now, fun, again, I'm not good for the sports balls, but I'm great for trivia night when it comes to business history and inventions and stuff. And she says the TV, yeah, the TV was invented by Professor Farnsworth, which I actually only remember because of Futurama having the professor, his name being that. But yeah, in terms of the radio, the telephone was Alexander Graham Bell. You also have the light bulb, obviously Thomas Edison, the automobile, I mentioned that already. Rocketry, yeah, that was the Germans. Operation Paperclip was a real thing. Spacecraft, airplane, well, yeah, the Wright brothers, famously. Which is also another funny thing about the mainstream media. I believe it was 2 to 3 months before the Wright brothers successfully flew their plane. The New York Times was saying, "Oh yeah, we'll never have manned flight. It'll never happen." Which, yeah, it ended up yes. The telescope, the printing press, the Gutenberg, famous printing press, which is why they call it the Gutenberg Bible, I believe. You also have contact lenses, eyeglasses, bifocals. Benjamin Franklin. She mentions microwave ovens, which, yeah, it's also a harsh lesson. Perhaps they'd say harsh lesson in business negotiations. Back in the day when again, people critique Raytheon a lot, which, yeah, they deserve some, obviously. But a lot of people say the microwave inventor was screwed over. Back in the day, you would trade a lot of your inventions to the company for job security, basically. Because back in the day, you were basically guaranteed a job at a company for life if you're a good employee or employee in good standing. So the inventor of the microwave, he actually had a chocolate bar in his pocket. He was an engineer at Raytheon. He was on, I forget if it was an aircraft carrier or submarine, but they had the radar going. And he realized, well, wait a minute. Why is my chocolate bar melting in my pocket? It's not that hot out. And lo and behold, he discovered, invented the microwave, and Raytheon gave him $1, which is real. You can Google it or Brave search it. So yeah, the inventor of the microwave was a Raytheon employee, and he made $1. They also note metallurgy, minerals and science, 95% medical advancements, which also fun fact, most of these medical companies are headquartered in the United States and I believe Switzerland. And for the most part, they say modern food preservatives, which, well, I'm not a fan of those, but yeah. Let's see. The bulk of mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology, discovery of DNA, genetic research, microscope, what is it? Laser technology, electricity, nuclear energy, wireless technology, air conditioning devices. Oh yeah, Mr. Robert Carrier. I believe they actually have a statue of him. I believe it's in Ohio, in his home state. Because again, that's probably one of the most, I would argue that's one of the most important inventions in the past, one of the top 50 inventions in history in terms of convenience, and you could argue in some cases saving lives because of some heat conditions. But yeah, the air conditioner, Mr. Robert Carrier, another famous one. He also says modern democracy, well, founding fathers. Says modern agricultural techniques. You could also argue agricultural, you could maybe argue agricultural machinery, with John Deere being the most famous company that's still around in that regard. And it says, so next time you get in your car, pick up your cell phone, fly a plane, etc. Thank white people. Getting 186 likes, which let me zoom out here because that's obnoxiously large. Scrolling down, you have, let's see here. MAGA or FAFO said, what a miserable C word. It says Rome 2,000 years ago and Africa about an hour ago. It's a beautiful marble buildings juxtaposition with a hut, which again, I got 766 likes. Sub-Saharan Africa, yeah, there are tribes, obviously. But it's also an instance where, yeah, Dave Chappelle, I thought, kind of disproved that notion almost decades ago now, when he first, broke away from Comedy Central because of that contract. He actually went to Africa and he was talking about how, he didn't have any pressure from the social media, not social media, the paparazzi there. He would just hang out at malls and other areas. So again, they have modern buildings there. Scrolling down more and more. The Abdi says what? Name one. Every invention by white people was a reinvention of Africa and Arab invention. The Kabbalion. Jeez Louise, check out 211 likes and 1.4 million views and 1.4 thousand comments. Contrarian statements are exciting. Was he ratioed? Jason says, quote, I noticed you said this in English on the internet from your mobile phone. I got 6,000 likes, which I guess depending on what survey how you're defining whiteness. Some people say Europeans are different. Some people say, Chinese or Asians would be different. But yeah, in terms of technology, modern, especially Korea and China. I mean, obviously, right off the top of my head, Sony and Samsung being probably two of the biggest companies out there. I don't know if they mentioned it, but photography, Mr. Oh, what is his? I forget his first name, but it eludes me at the moment. But Mr. Kodak, one of those first successful commercial available cameras was Mr. Kodak. Jay Sylvia says Alexander Graham Bell. He says Alexander Graham Bell stole the telephone idea from Africans who yelled really loud over the Serengeti, getting 1.9 thousand likes. A hero says, if this was true, why isn't Africa the most technologically advanced continent? What happened to get 1.3 thousand likes? Coupe Paul says, your post has been rated 3 Kamalas and 1 AOC for how stupid it is, getting 1.6 thousand likes. Ho Math, very interesting. I didn't know that's a thing. Says, this can be proven false by the fact that when you go away, our lives get better. Getting 3.3 thousand likes. Pretty hateful. Let's see. Going back to the main comment section because it seems like that gentleman's ratio pretty bad. You have Cletus, and it's a map of Europe covering the UK, Germany, France, and Italy. Says 97% of human accomplishments since the 14th century occurred from men born in this region around, that's a quote from Murray, 2003. It got 93 likes, which, I mean, if it wasn't for Italians yelling and fighting with each other, where would we be without cool cars? I mean, Ferrari, Lamborghini, granted they're boring now because they're automatic, but yeah. And also, fun fact, the oldest firearm company in history and still family owned to this day, which is astronomically impressive, is Beretta, or Beretta, if you mispronounce it in Italian, like I like to try to say it, famously headquartered in Italy. They made cannons way back in the day. They still make, they're not as popular as they used to be in terms of the United States. They mostly focus on military contracts like Heckler and Koch, like that one being a German company. But yeah, Italy, a lot of people forget. Well, Benelli, they make some great shotguns. Yeah, Benelli, yeah, that was a good one too. Nah, definitely out of my price range though. One of these days, I love that. But see, scrolling down more and more. Yeah, that's. Adam Johnson says it's not that complicated. They just hate white people, getting 350 likes. And the real question is Joy Reid actually viable from her social media? Like, does she actually make enough money from her social media to make a living? Or does she just have, if she is smart, I don't know if she was, her whole life, again, not financial advice, if I was Joy Reid and said stupid things for a living for, a decade plus, and you're being paid preposterously high amounts of money, millions of dollars, I mean, maybe she just has enough money in the S&P 500 in her investments where she can do this as a hobby and not, lose money, or she can afford to lose money. But yeah, I don't think Joy Reid right now is viable in terms of her activities. I think this is a pet project. And again, I don't have much ground to stand on. This show loses money when taking into account all the materials I've had to buy. Not even the camera has paid for itself in terms of how much I make per month on the YouTube. Though I do make about 2 cents per month on the Rumble. Not to brag about my money situation or anything, but I can only do the show because of our handsome sponsor, Topping Technologies, which of course has a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. But yeah, I think race baiting is done. I don't think people are going to follow Joy Reid anymore. I think most people just say, all that matters is merit and a man's character. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Costco will no longer sell abortion pills anymore, with some crediting conservative investors, which, even if I agree with what Costco is doing, I don't think that's the reason why they're doing it. Now, this is credited to Alexandra O'Connell Demich over at the Hill. It says, quote, Costco will not sell abortion medication to pharmacies. Oh, I'm sorry. You can see Gavin Newscomb on the screen, which, blimey, SOB. Now, they say, quote, Costco Wholesale Corp will not dispense the abortion medication mifepristone as pharmacy. The wholesaler did not immediately respond to the questions about the Hill about the move, but the company told Reuters that the decision was made due to a lack of demand since patients typically receive the drug from their healthcare provider, which, yeah, I can't but think the people who want that pill, they're not going for a 10-pack of chicken and, the pharmaceutical needs, or in that case, a want. I don't think anyone, do you know a lot of people that goes, hey, honey, I'm going to go to Costco. We need 10 rotisserie chickens, a 25-pack of boxers, and an abortion pill. I mean, maybe that happens once per year. Now, they say that some religious groups and anti-abortion activists praise Costco's decision, which was first reported by Bloomberg. This is from Michael Ross, who is a legal counsel for the Conservative Religious Coalition Alliance Defiance Freedom. He says, quote, we applauded Costco for doing the right thing by its shareholders and resisting activist calls to sell abortion drugs. Retailers like Costco keep their doors open by selling a lifetime of purchases to families, both large and small. They have nothing to gain and much to lose by becoming abortion dispensaries, unquote, which, I mean, that is again, I always tell people, a lot of people, when they try to talk about the abortion debate or the argument, a lot of them will try to bring in religion into the argument, which, again, I understand. It's a very important thing, especially if you're Catholic. That's why, a lot of people say Joe Biden is not a Catholic president because, again, he believed in abortion. But I always think when you're talking to people who do not share faith, it does not make sense to use faith as your argument because they don't believe in faith. That's not their thing. They don't believe in it. So I always usually try to come from a place of logic and reason, which, again, those are very rare, nuanced words in 2025. But again, I would argue if you're a business, you would want as many people to be out there as possible, because so that you have as many as prospective customers as possible, especially Costco, where, again, the people who benefit the most from a Costco visit are going to be the families who need bulk purchases of food and accessories. Now, they also have Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America's, that's a long name, Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America's representative, Emily Aaron Davis, commented the move as a clear message to wholesaler won't be complicit in the abortion industry to sell dangerous abortion drugs. They know that CVS and Walgreens announced last year they received certification to start dispensing the drug in states where the abortion is legal, following the FDA's policy change that made it easier for pharmacies to distribute milnacol in person or in the mail. New York Comptroller Brad Blunder sent letters to Walmart, Costco, Kroger, Albertsons, and McKesson to follow suit and request certifications to dispense the drug, warning that the company's failure to do so, well, he claims to put women's reproduction health care at risk, which, yeah, of course, they call killing kids reproductive health care. Yeah, about that. They say that none of the food and drug retailers respond for requests per the comment for the Hill. Conservative groups like the ADF took issue and sent their own letters to the companies. Which, again, I don't think the companies give a damn about conservative groups because, you look at the investors of Costco. It's over, like I said, 97%. It's all Blackstone, State Street, Vanguard, companies that are very much in the beliefs of things like DEI, ESG scores, and frankly, political things like abortion. But in terms of making money and providing the best value to the consumer, which is what Costco is all about, I think they did this purely based on finances. Again, the shareholders of Costco voted in 98% to keep DEI policies. The shareholders, again, many of them are institutional shareholders, they all love things that are traditionally politically very much left-leaning. Abortion being one of the biggest political issues in the United States, being a left-right thing, or libertarian, and they just want you to do whatever you want. And again, I think they did this just because they weren't making any money on it. And I don't think the consumer demand was there. And again, going back to not making any money on it, there's an instance where in some states, Costco is now allowed to bar you from buying pharmaceuticals from them. As in, you don't need to be a member of Costco to buy drugs there in some states. Which again, Costco only makes money and a profit off of selling memberships. If you're to break into a Costco or sneak in without an ID or you're not a member, and you buy products, they'll lose money on that transaction. Their margins are that slim because they're that dedicated to giving the most possible value to the consumer. That's what makes Costco an extremely great retail establishment. The amount of loyalty they have for the consumers and fight for them is unparalleled almost. And I think I looked at the Google and other websites. These drugs usually list prices like maybe $79 per instance or pill. That's $80. Even if you assume a generous margin of, Costco claims their margin is 7 to 12% on items sometimes even less than that. So they may make maybe $8 per transaction. And again, I don't think this is a thing. I don't think women are buying these. This is a infrequent purchase as well. It's not like you buy this cyclical. It's not like you need this every day of the week. It's not like some other pharmaceutical medications. So I think they did this purely just based on fiscal things not adding up. Now, on social media, there are a lot of people giving praise to it. We have Gunther Eagleman saying, quote, Costco says no. Says Costco will not sell abortion pills in U.S. pharmacies. Now, also, not all, but there are also states banning this as well. So that might be another contributing factor. This went a little viral, got 39,000 views and 1.7 thousand likes. One of the first comments, I'm a little biased. Not the first by number of likes, but the most handsomest. Just kidding. It's me, the Topping Show, and I say, quote, based, getting 8 likes. Paul Zupa simply says good, getting 18 likes. Kelvin Aguilara says Plan B is way better than killing something that's already alive. Getting 5 likes, which in terms of politics and controversy, that is a thing in and of itself with Plan B. Because that is a different mechanism, but same result in terms of a stopping of life. Though again, even in the religious community, there's debates on the different types of medications. It's one of the most complex issues in politics, religion, and many people would say in life. Also, Magion says, wow, a conservative drumbeat for the Sea of Blue. What a turning of the corner. Getting 6 likes. Oh, let's see. Oh, come on, computer. And apologies, I'm always trying to make the show better and better. Thanks to the comments, I recently realized that I spent most of my time in the eyes looking to the right. I have a interaction with my monitors in front of me where I have, one monitor where I can see myself on the screen. I have one monitor for the headers or the titles of each segment of the show, and then I have one for the X and other websites that I reference. Usually have that on the rightmost monitor, or my right. And I had some feedback, so I'm going to try to look more directly at the camera, though it does obfuscate some of the comments. But again, that's why I always ask for feedback. Always trying to do better. Trying to slow down my speech as much as possible. Believe it or not, when I started the show, I spoke faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to come upstairs. But as I slowly but surely, gain more subscribers, I've gotten better at speaking, which leads to my theory. The more people that click that subscribe button, the better I will get at speaking, and someday make it through an entire episode speaking perfectly articulately. Now I just tell people, tell your friends and tell your enemies. Your enemies might be so enamored by your taste in good quality podcasts that they then become your friends, or perhaps they hate it so much they then become greater enemies and it becomes a physical altercation. Perhaps I shouldn't suggest that, but either way, it'd make for a funny joke or a funny story. So I would always say, why not tell your enemies as well? And of course, hit that subscribe button because I greatly appreciate it. Scrolling down, you also have, what's this? Patriot by Blood says vaccines are cool though, getting 9 likes and a peace sign. Let's see. Medzani says we're Costco guys. We don't need abortions, getting 5 likes. Dr. Etiquette says, quote, we tried to make a deal with Costco for them to be able to distribute abortion pills on a massive level, getting 11 likes. Crushing Woke Culture says Costco sells 3-gallon tubs of mayo but draws the line at abortion pills. That's not just business, it's backbone. In an era where every corporation bends to the mob, saying no is rare, principle is greater than profit, respect, getting 11 likes, which, again, I don't think that's why they did this. Again, this is not a frequent purchase. It's not a product you frequently purchase. The margins I don't think are that great. And it's an instance where the average Costco customer probably is much more left-leaning on average. Certainly they're investors. You also have Ugly Cowboys saying, quote, probably best not to buy a mega pack of abortion pills from Costco, getting 8 likes. Agent 47 says Costco draws the line. Weak arguments meet refusal. Clarity, discipline, always dominant in decision, getting 8 likes. You also have, let's see here. Salt T says, looks like Costco membership just got even more valuable, getting 8 likes. Talismith says it's not a moral stance, so don't get too excited. They stated it's low demand. It's all about profit margin, which, yeah, again, I tend to agree with that statement. And again, some companies will obfuscate some of the reasons they do things because they're worried about public backlash. But again, in this case, I tend to believe them. Joe T also says Costco-based department speaking, how may I help you, getting 3 likes. So again, I definitely don't think this means it's a conservative store. I definitely don't think they're going to make some more, I don't think they're going to make any, huge store or employee policies that are radically different than the current status quo over there. But let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Ford hitting 104 recalls of the year thus far. Now, this brought to us thanks to Motor1.com. And, I'm sorry, now you have to see a Ford on the screen. Ugh. This is credited to Jeff Perez. And they say, quote, Ford has issued 104 recalls this year. Here's a list of them. In just 8 months, Ford has already recalled more than 2 million cars, and those numbers are likely to go up. And appropriately on the screen is a Ford F-150 Lightning, which, yeah, that's one of their few EVs they make. Well, few model of EVs they make, as they lose about $5 billion per year on EVs. But yeah, that's had plenty of its fair share of recalls already. Now, Jeff says, quote, it's been a rocky year for Ford on the recall front. As of August, the Big Blue Oval has issued more recalls than any other manufacturer, a whopping 104 of them at the time of the publication. This recall spans multiple model lines and encompasses nearly 2 million vehicles sold. The earliest of the Ford's recalls began in mid-January when a company issued 4 recalls ranging from a loss of power to a misassembly of the steering gear. On May 27th, On May 27th, Ford issued its most recalls in a single day. 13! For context, that's the same number of recalls Mercedes-Benz has issued all year thus far, which, geez Louise, Ford. And again, a lot of people are starting to critique Jim Farley. He's the CEO, which I have a soft spot because he is a gearhead. He always is dedicated to making an affordable sports car with a V8 and a stick shift. Very rare these days, though, again, not as affordable as I would like it to be. A little out of my price range. But again, he's a car guy. And the newer ones are slightly more reliable. Again, they note in the article how a lot of these recalls are from older vehicles. So I don't think it's fair to fully critique their CEO. I don't think it's fair to pin all of this on him. Now, Jim Farley says, quote, the recalls that we had are vehicles engineered in 2015 and 2016 and 2016. A lot of software over-the-air updates that are not that expensive. I'm going to end that quote right there, which I don't think software updates should count as recall for any manufacturer. I think they need to change that industry trend, because again, if it's just an update, you do not need to go to the dealership. To me, I don't think it should count as a traditional recall. But again, as of the metrics of today, it's all the same for all the manufacturers. That does count. He said, I wouldn't correlate for investors the number of recalls and cost. Actually, our base coverages make up 60% of our warranty costs, and those go down as we drive these quality improvements into our product, which, again, they're getting slightly better, but yeah, Ford and quality, that's kind of funny. But as you know, the products are out there in the market, and I would expect recalls potentially going up at Ford because we want to protect the consumers. We have more inspectors and more engineers looking at our quality issues in the field. These are vehicles that are 6 to 7 years old, and we want to do what's right for the consumer. It's the longest lagging metric, recalls for quality improvements. This will be the last one that turns. Warranty coverage are already going down as something we were really proud of, unquote, which, again, friendly reminder, in Q3 2024, they spent about $850 million on warranty work, which is a pretty penny to say the least. Now, again, kind of going to the pie graph here, which, again, F- for marketing, the motor1.com. Ford is famous for Ford Blue, yet they put Ford as red on this diagram, again, which is making up 40% of all recalls this year, which is impressive, but not in a good way. We also have Forest River, more RVs. I don't consider that same category as, cars and trucks. Chrysler is the second major automobile manufacturer, coming in at 8% of all recalls. Volkswagen is at 7%. GM is at 6%. Ford is making GM look reliable, which is saying something. You also have Mercedes-Benz getting 6% of all recalls. Honda coming in clutch at 5% only. Not too bad, Honda. Keep up the good work. International Motors, 4%. Shift Group, 4%. You also have Mack Trucks at 4%. You have Jayco at 3%. Autocar LLC at 3%. And again, Ford is, getting better and better. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these, again, some of these are, a lot of them for the EVs. A lot of them are actually mechanical and related to the drivetrain, which is the most expensive, complex part of the vehicle. And yeah, hitting 104 recalls in a single year. Jeez. I gotta say, Ford, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.